Alright, I decided to go for one more. We're going to look at how to factor something. If we're given one factor, how to develop that. I'm going to show you two ways, like we've talked about. They're going to be basically analogous to those two ways that we've done in previous videos. So we're given this factor, but we want to factor this completely. Notice this is x to the fourth power. That means we should be getting 4 factors. Okay? Well, one way to do that is to divide this by the factor that we have, see what's left over, and see what we can do from there. So that's what I'm going to do here. So given this, and I can rewrite that as x minus 3 minus 4i. So that tells me this is my 0. So I have 3 minus 4i. Now since this is linear, I can use my synthetic division. I have a 1 for my fourth term. Notice I don't have a cubic term. See if you can fill in the rest on your own. Okay, so I have a 0, then I have a 14, then of course I have another 0, and then 625. Okay, I drop this, I get 3 minus 4i, 3 minus 4i. Now I have to do some multiplication here. When I multiply these two together, I'll do this on the side here. I get 3 minus 4i times 3 minus 4i. That's going to be 9. That's going to be negative 12i. That's going to be negative 12i. And then here I have a negative and a negative. I have 4 and 4, that's 16. Then I squared, so that's going to make that negative 16. So I have these two together, 9 and negative 16. That's going to give me negative 7. So I have negative 7, then minus 24i. Add those together, that gives me 7 minus 24i. Then I need to multiply again, so I have 3 minus 4i times 7 minus 24i. That's 21. That's negative 28i. 24, that's 672. So negative 72i. And then that's what? 96. And that's going to be negative 96. Alright, so let's see, 75. So that's negative 75. And then, if I did this correctly, let's see, so that would be 80, 100. So negative 100i. Got a little squeezed in here. Negative 100i. And then I've got to multiply that through. Okay, so 3 minus 4i, negative 75 minus 100i, that's a 3. So let's see, negative 75 times 3, 150, that'd be 225, so negative 225. Negative 75 times 4i, that'd be 300i. And here I have negative 300i. And then here I have positive 400i squared, or negative 400. Notice my I terms, my imaginary parts, cancel. So I have 0 for my imaginary part, and then this is negative 625. And that's good because we should be getting a 0 here because we said this was a factor. Good. So now that's a little crazy to see, but if I wanted to write this out, I would have x cubed plus, I might write it like this, 3 minus 4i x squared plus 7 minus 24i x minus 75 minus 100i. Okay. All right. Now, this doesn't look like something that we'd be too good at dealing with. But one thing we know is that we started with all real coefficients. So if we start with real coefficients and we have one factor that has an imaginary part, then that also tells me that I have the conjugate. So I should have the conjugate of this, which tells me that this should be a factor as well. And I can go ahead and tack that on the end. Okay. So I have 1 here. Now notice here I have 3 times 3. I can do it over here again. Minus 4i, 3 plus 4i. Notice these are conjugates, so you should expect what's going to happen next. Right, so I multiply through. Oh, sorry, I actually don't have to do that yet. Multiply through. I get 3. I don't even have to worry about that yet. Multiply, I get this. And notice when I add, I get 6 here. These go to 0i, so I'm just going to write 6. And now when I multiply, I'm going to get 18 plus 24i. Now notice again, I have negative 24i, positive 24i, so that's 0i. So I'm back to getting real coefficients. So that's going to be 25. Then when I multiply by 25, I get 75 plus 100i, which is exactly what I would want, because when I add those together, I get 0 altogether, and I'm back to real coefficients. So now I have x squared plus 6x plus 25. And I can use, now that I have this, so far, I know that this original piece here, I'll call A, I know that A is equal to x minus 3 plus 4i times x minus 3 minus 4i, that's if I distribute that negative, times x squared plus 6x plus 25. Now I haven't quite fully factored because I should be able to get 2 factors out of that, but I can use something like the quadratic formula or something to finish that. Okay, so I could do that real quick. Let me try that real quick. Alright, so let's see, negative b, so x is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a, a is 1. So I get negative 6 plus or minus the square root of 36 minus 100. I think that's negative 64. Right? So that would be, sorry, that's all over 2 still. So when we divide that, we get negative 3. Square root of 64 is 8. So that's going to be 8i plus or minus 8i, but divide by 2. So plus or minus 4i. Alright, so that tells me overall then I should get x minus 3 plus 4i times x minus 3 minus 4i times x, so it would be x minus these things, so that would mean x plus 3 minus 4i and x plus 3 plus 4i. And now I've fully factored this. Okay, so that was one method. The next method is, instead of doing this piece by piece, because I know that one of my factors is complex and I have real coefficients here, I could start out by putting these two pieces together, which would be the same as saying multiplying these two things. So I could start with x minus 3 plus 4i times x minus 3 minus 4i. Find out what that is. So x squared minus 3x plus 4ix minus 3x plus 9 minus 12i minus 4ix plus 12i, and then negative 16i squared, which would be positive 16. Now notice this term and this term undo each other, this term and this term undo each other, so we have x squared minus 6x plus 25. Now that I have this, I could use long division to divide here. If I take this part and divide using long division, I can do that. So go ahead and try that on your own. I'll make a little space here and I'll try it. Alright. So now I have x squared minus 6x plus 25 divided by, that's dividing into x to the 4th plus 0 x cubed plus 14 x squared plus 0 x plus 625. All right. So you can see I need an x squared. So I do that, x squared, x to the 4th, minus 6x to the 3rd, plus 25x squared. And I subtract that. Those are gone. I get 6x cubed minus, is that 11x squared? And I have 3 terms, so I need to drop my next one. I need to get to 6x cubed, so plus 6x, so I get 6x cubed minus 36x squared, and then it makes 150 plus 150x. Go ahead and subtract. So I think that gives me 25x squared. And then minus 150x, and then plus the 625 tacked on the end. So to get from x squared to 25x squared, I need to add 25. And then you can see 25x squared, 25 times negative 6x is going to be negative 150x. 25 times 25 is 625, so we're going to get a remainder of 0. So one last way that we can write this is remember that these two terms here, right? And notice we have this here. This is exactly what we got before. So we could also write this as x squared minus 6x plus 25 times x squared plus 6x plus 25. But of course, this is our fully factored form. Okay. Hopefully that was helpful to you. And that's the end of this stretch of videos.